Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before I do begin, let me give a brief little explanation. I have done a Spider-Man Deku. I have done a Venom Deku. And now, to complete that, Blaze does want me to do a Carnage Deku. And I'm not opposed to it. However, I know for a fact Carnage and Venom have very similar abilities. Though one is arguably just way fucking crazier. And a villain symbiote story? Well, if that just don't ruffle my jimmies, I don't know what the fuck will. Anyways, with that being said, let's get started now. We'll cut to a road. They do currently sit there. There is a military blockade in front of it. There we go. And people, they are still quite concerned about the last couple weeks' events. It's been chaotic. It's been bad. There's a new villain on scene. One that has shook the stage for how the world has seen not only heroes, but villains. And the person inside the vehicle, they are quite interested to talk with this person. They handed over their identification. They handed over a file. A phone call was then made, and after verifying that this person is supposed to be here, they were allowed to drive down the road. However, this person, they still feel like their heart is in their throat. Their suit feels a little tight. And in fact, they feel like they might need to undo that top button. For one specific reason. Their mouth feels dry, and their pulse is thumping rapidly. And when they do finally pull up to Tartarus Prison, off that long road, there's a lot that does go through their mind. They have to chat with somebody, turning to their colleague, asking them exactly if they're ready for this. Are you sure this is a good idea? I mean, the committee, they can't sign off on this. Can't or won't. Or will. I don't know myself. Listen, we're just trying to do what they order us to do. We have to talk with him. We need to find out if he's truly as bad as they say he is. You say that, but seriously, this can't be ethical. I mean, why haven't they tried giving him the death penalty? First, it's not ethical. But we're working for the committee. Nagant's already locked inside. And after what happened with her, there's quite a lot of ideas as to how to deal with society at the current moment. I understand. But you think after Nagant, we wouldn't want to deal with someone who might be worse? Nagant had a conscience. Yes, and this one doesn't. A killing machine. Do you know his overall kill count? I can give you a brief idea. He took out half of the top 10. And that was in a couple days. He put All Might in the hospital and Endeavor in the grave. And as far as we can tell, no one knows where Basheenis went. Do you have any ideas? Hawks is in a coma because of him. I know. But still. I mean, why haven't they killed him? Locking him up, he'll just escape. They've tried. What? How many attempts do you think it took before they decided to put him here in Tartarus? The most advanced prison that we have? How many times do you think he was given the death penalty? Twice? Once? This is a trick question, right? They tried giving it to him 7 times. Nothing stuck. Lethal injection was the first one. He laughed, broke free, and murdered his audience. The second time, they put a bullet in his head. And he survived. He survived the pro heroes. That one, I don't know what they were thinking. The others are classified. They're classified? So it's gotta be bad. It's gotta be bad, and it probably is. Trust me. Them going to step out of the vehicle after recomposing themselves, which does take about 15 to 20 minutes. And after the person, they do go to put out their cigarette, they do go to walk through the doors. The armed guards escorting them down the halls, weapons ready. And they do see quite a lot of people walking past many of the cells that are here. And a lot of them, they do house some of the most dangerous people here in Japan. However, Tartarus, they have been dealing with a bit of an issue. Things that have been getting more strange as time has gone on. And it's been a little odd. Right now, they do to walk into an elevator. Someone going to turn as the security team does inform the two to look away from the wall, or look away from the panel. The person pulling out a key and entering a code, for they to turn the key and then a panel is to open. Them putting in an additional code as the elevator, it does go to the bottom floor. Right now, it's going to open before they just step out. And they do go to look at one cell. It has a very thick metal door, and they're worried. The person stepping forwards, bring their hands up as they do go to turn off the controls for the armed guns. And when the controls are turned off, they do get a radio in, telling security that they've turned off the automated security team. And if they don't get a response in 10 minutes from them, assume there has been a jailbreak. Right. Synchronizing. And now, them getting a confirmation, as there actually is, where someone does a walk over and begin to open the door. Them turning the creaky metal door as it does it open. And the two do walk in. It looks more like a bunker. It looks more like a bomb shelter. And there is one person who does get a look up. Izuku Midoriya. And he does his own smile, talking about how it's been quite a bit of time since he's had guests. And they just stare at the man. No, the young man. He's 16, 17, and they've got him bolted to the wall with all these wires draining his blood. And what can I do for you? Or to you? I am with the Hero Committee. Me and my associate, the person going to step into the room as if it is covered in landmines, trying to carefully avoid where they're stepping but keeping eyes on Deku. And whenever the security chief does stand there, he has to tell them they only get 10 minutes, or about 8 minutes from now. Right, we can do with that. We'll only need 5. You have 8. Right. Then I'm going to turn, walking over and going to check the metal container that is connected to the IV before they do go to flush the system to incinerate the blood. And they do turn back, looking at Deku as he doesn't make a comment. Oh, come on, Chief Manson. It's not that bad, is it? Come on. It can't be worse than when he found his daughter. The man turning back, giving a glare to Deku, who does get a laugh out, talking about it. Oh, come on. That one was easy. But how is Bethany? The man turning, before walking over and bringing a gun directly to Deku's head, telling him, "Do not say her name." Oh, come on. She's still in the hospital? I mean, she did have to watch. Put your gun away, Chief Manson. Be a good little doggy and put the gun down. I will blow your fucking head off. No, you won't. Do you want to know why? Because it doesn't work. Trust me, people have tried. All you'll do is make me want to feel a little thirsty. Alright? Now, how about you go fetch me lunch? Chop, chop. The man gonna lower the weapon, turning and walking out, before telling them, again, they only have a few minutes. And he does gonna walk past them quickly. The person stepping forwards, bringing their hand up and clearing their throat. The woman adjusting her glasses, expressing, she is a member of... She works with a government organization. And you lost me. We're hoping to talk with you about a possible offer. Hmm? Offer? Yes. As you do know, well, probably not. We know a lot about you. We've looked into your history, your past. It's quite the information. Listen, I don't know if we'll have enough time to talk about it. We are hoping for the full 10, but I'll try to summarize it as best as I can. We'll look into getting an extension. The one turning, waving to her colleague to step out, trying to tell the security officer about what they do need. And the man is more than happy to. The woman turning back and telling him she has a possible job offer for him. They're quite aware of his infatuation with murder. He has zero qualms about it. I don't have any qualms about it. I know. And her going to somewhat feel her words catching her throat, trying to tell him. The people she works for wants to hire him. Hire me? I don't know if I exactly do have the right job qualifications. I assure you, you are more than qualified. In fact, I've looked into your record a little bit. I've dug quite extensively, and you were classified as quirkless, but that changed when you were 15 years old. It did. Funny thing. So it does seem you didn't have any classifications for an ability, and then suddenly you're this. Do you mind giving an explanation? To your bosses or to you? Let's say her taking off her glasses, talking about it. She's a fan. And keep it at that. How about that? She's quite intrigued about a lot of this, though. They're draining a decent amount of blood out of him. His quirk works off of that. My powers do. Yeah. You create some sort of bloody suit. You can control it almost like Vlad King's abilities. Mine are way better than his. Though, I like to think I'm unique. The bond we share is quite nice. We. That is interesting. There have been reports that you've been spotted talking to somebody whenever you're performing your acts of art. Art. You want to call what I do art? You don't think so? No, I think it's me ripping a guy's guts out and trying to spell something with him. Usually. Though, I'm a little bit more intrigued now. Deku Gunasawa lean forwards. The restraints Gunasawa creak out as he does ask, exactly what does she know about him? And what's this offer? He is a little curious now. Hmm? I assure you, you'll be well more than compensated. I don't need cash. I never said anything about cash. We want you to kill. You have my attention. We want you to do a lot. We want to see what you can do. My bosses have had to deal with someone who had emotions, convictions, and when their morals no longer aligned, they snapped. They're locked in Tartarus prison, and we would like you to take her place. We need someone who is brutal, efficient, and can get the job done. We want you to be the one who regulates hero society. Hero society. Really? Yes, that's what they do want. I would be there to help and advise you, give you your potential targets, and, well, as long as they're taken out, you can do whatever you want with them. That does sound interesting. So, if I wanted to, let's just say, take my time with them, you would be given a location, a place, and maybe even tools. Though I think you have that last one covered. You're quite creative. The woman looking down at her file about some of the scenes they have found. Incidents connected to him, and some reportedly connected. Her staring at a photo, a particularly gruesome one of, well, a slurry in a bathtub, and the reported drawing on the mirror. And she does a turn the paper, asking him if he was the one who did this. Looks familiar, can't say. Is there something wrong with that? No, just investigating. That's all. Then again, the woman taking a step forwards, telling him, does he have any reason as to why he doesn't want to take on the job? I don't like politics. And the idea of taking orders from some government hack doesn't appeal to me. I'd rather split the fucker's head open and see how far I could roll it across the pavement. I mean, hell, take it to a bowling alley, see how that can go. Though I would have to shave it, otherwise it won't roll right. Actually, that could be a fun little idea. Experiment? No. No, they do have some good nachos sometimes. Are you really this crazy all the time? I'm the way I am. If you have a problem with it, I suggest you leave. I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, I'm a fan. Deku lunging forwards. In restraints due to finally stop him, she just won't sit there. Her shaking very stilly. And Deku, he can see the fear in her eyes. But her body does betray that. She's excited, happy to be here, hanging on every word he does say. And Deku, he does see that. She's enthralled by his words. She's happy to see them, happy to oblige them. And he does start laughing a little. Looks like I have a fan. Tell me, what else do you know about me? Well, Oh, where to begin? The beginning would be nice. I'm curious. I mean, I know the story, but do you know the story? How well does my number one fan know me? Uh, okay. I can start from the beginning. You didn't know you were quirkless until you were 4 years old. You grew up in a rough household. Your mother and father are both deceased, presumably from your doing, since no one knows where or what happened to them. You saw them die whenever you were about 10, 15 years old, respectively, for both. That's true. You were raised with your father, a violent man. He didn't like your oddities. You were put into psychological counseling many times. However, you didn't like it. There's numerous cases where you didn't show up. There are times where you did talk to the counselor, and others where you reportedly were kicked out. Incidentally, there's also others where the therapist or counselor of yours were unwilling to report as to what they heard from you. That's true. I do remember one. If you're referring to Mr. Richards, then I believe I know what you're referring to in the context of. Was he your first? No. You always remember the first. I'm assuming a woman like you would understand. I'm sure I do. But we're talking about your first murder. I know what I said. I can see that look in your eyes. Who have you killed? Who have you killed? Come on. Great minds think alike. Was it some abusive ex? Some guy who thought he could push you around and eventually one day after he struck you, you just lost it? Was it your father? Your mother? Ooh, I bet it was your mother. The woman just wants to smile. And Deku, he does see that, throwing his head back a little and laughing, as he does talk about it. Well now, that does seem to be quite nice, but they've already gone over a little too much for him. He doesn't really like going down memory lane. So if she does excuse him, Deku pulling his hand free from the restraint, as his arm does sit there twisted, before it does be covered in red and the bone is a snap back into place. Claws forming from his left hand as he is a turn. The Carnage symbiote going to cover his entire arm as he does go to rip free his right arm. And just as a step backwards, recoiling as Deku, he does go to step free of his restraints, them breaking under the force where he's bring his hand up. The symbiote covering his face as he does go to rip off the muzzle covering his mouth. And he does go to sit there, his tongue filling at the air, salivating and wet, as she does a stare on at him in awe. And the tendrils, they do go to wrap around him, some forming behind him as security alarms do start blaring. And she has to step forwards, expressing she's completely in awe. Please, take her with him. She needs to know more. She needs to, Deku stepping forwards, bring his hand up to her head, as he does going to run a claw along her face, bring his hand up to her neck and giving it a squeeze, telling her, this was quite fun. However, snapping her neck, and she does fall to the ground limp, before he does cackle out a bit more, him leaning over and going to absorb some of the biomass, before he does go stepping out and the automated security turns do turn back on. and they do begin to fire at Deku. Security beginning to try and talk about what the hell's happening. They are having a problem. Carnage has broken free of his restraints. And this is a bad time. Right now, people stepping in. A man with a grenade launcher stepping up and firing out a explosive device. It spraying fire as it's being cover the area. And Deku, he doesn't go to walk straight through the area. Him going to run on all fours as he's a lunge at the man and tackle him to the ground. His claws find the man's ribs and ripping up his lungs. Before his tendrils do a turn, shooting out in every direction, impaling the man to the left and slashing out quickly to the right, cutting a man's neck off and slicing one across the face. As the third man, he does have his gun cut in half along with several of his fingers taken off. Him screaming in pain as Deku, he does go to stand up and roar out. And it can be heard through Tartarus prison. Many people in their cells going immediately towards the back walls. As Deku, he is going to run over to the elevator. Right now, him smashing inside and trying to press the buttons. And the door, it doesn't want to close. As Deku, he does go to look at that before he just step out and begin to look around. Before seeing the man on the ground with 4 of his fingers missing, his thumb, all that remains, and right now in a little bit of shock. Deku walking over and grabbing the man by the head, before his teammate does begin to cover it and look through his mind. And he is quite annoyed, walking over and looking for somebody. Come on, where the fuck is he? Well, shit. Seeing that the man's brain does lay out on the ground, and that isn't good. Okay, he's got the badge, he's got... Well, the key's in there somewhere. Oh well. Looks like I'll do this the old-fashioned way. Him running back over to the elevator. Rhino him busting to the top of it and beginning to climb through the shaft. Him heading up and climbing the floors. As right now, there is at the top floor. The one that they know he might pop out of. The one that Carnage is set to come from, if he does want to stand a chance of escaping. It's the bottom of Tartarus prison. At least it was, before they made that specialized cell specifically for him. And right now, Deku, he does come pounding against the wall. The thick steel going to cave a little as is a dent inward. The handprint visible as they do hear the roar of Carnage. Before there is where another smash has come in. A third and a fourth. Then a fifth and a sixth. A seventh and an eighth. A ninth and a... Nothing. The still silence of the room. All you can hear is the adjustments slightly. The weapons, they're ready on full auto. And there is where someone, they do someone shift. Right out of them goes someone swallow, and they do still hear the alarms blaring, the sirens flashing. And then the boom of the elevator door ripping free. For Carnage to roar out, and his tendrils do get sent flying in every direction. Them going to shoot forwards as they do open fire on the symbiote. And Deku, he does begin to absorb the bullet fire. Him taking several rounds to the chest as he is bringing his hand up, making a massive blade and sliding it out forwards, cleaving through fire with security guards as he is a turn, sitting on a tendril spike flying at one. It impaled them into the bottom of his neck as he's ripped up into the air, before his body is flung to other guards and they do smashing the ground. Deku turning his head and bending his knees, leaping up into the air and bringing his hands up, as he is smashing against the railing and turning, leaping up into the air and throwing his hand up, as he does go to find the ceiling and throw out his hand, him shooting a web as it is a stick to the ceiling and he does begin to climb it like a spider. Before he does go to stick to the ceiling and then begin to move. Him cocking out with laughter about how they can't catch him, they can't catch him. And people, they do try to do what they can. They already have an explosives team on the way. They already have their explosives team, which they're not too sure if they can take them on. The shit they're using, it will burn directly through metal. So, hopefully, it can burn straight through Carnage. Though, they're not that set on it. Hell, they've even thought about using napalm. But that shit, yeah, it's too risky here. There's a lot that could go wrong. If they mess with some of the cells or the operations, it could get worse. It's not good. And currently there is where Deku, he does go bushing through the door. Him going to step outside as several vehicles are there. The symbiote going to unwrap around his head as Deku does take a whiff of the air. And that is a good feeling. A nice, bright, sunny day with a nice little breeze. Not a cloud in the sky. Damn, how long has it been since he's been outside? Him looking down and seeing that several people in front of him are frozen in fear, along with the military vehicles that do sit here. Right now, him laughing out about that. And there is where the gunfight does start. The symbiote recovering his face as the tongue does come out. Him roaring out and making his way forwards towards the people. And there is currently on the other side of that road where they do see a lot happening. They do see explosions in the distance, smoke rising, and they do go to slightly hear the sound of gunfire. A man sitting there and turning his head, concerned about what's going on. He's scared shitless. If Carnage gets back to the world, gets back to the mainland, that could be bad. I mean, he won't. They've got heroes on the way. And this isn't good. If they leave, then no one would know. No one would know at all. They would just assume that, and then never mind. They don't hear anything. Them seeing a vehicle beginning to drive their way. And it's one of theirs. Someone looking through a pair of binoculars. And they do look at the vehicle. They can see a person dressed in military fatigues. They do have some blood on them. But they do bring their hand up the window and they're waving their hand. And this, it does go to slightly ease their concerns. However, they do go to do one simple thing. They do take a closer look, trying to see what the person is doing. However, their hand does look a little off. Something a little bit more red on it. Is that blood? Something coming up from the turret. And Deku, he does come shooting up and grabbing the machine gun before he's going to spit rounds to the military. And there is the bridge, it does start collapsing. Right now, them watching on as there is where it does try to catch up to the vehicle. Deku going to have the dead man floor the vehicle as there is where it is going to roar forwards, heading at 70 miles an hour, trying to go above 80. However, it is pedal to the metal and Deku firing downrange. Yeah, he does cackle out with more laughter before he does try to make the symbiote do more to the vehicle. Him going to push it up to 80 as the vehicle, it does come smashing to the other military vehicle. Deku getting across the bridge barely, as by the time they got across, the last segment started falling. Their vehicle bounced off of the mainland and went up into the air before it crashed and Deku was then flying out. The vehicle smashing over as he was presumably crushed by the impact of a 1-ton military vehicle at the minimum, smashing down onto the turret. So yeah, there's not too many hopes for him to be alive. And the people sitting here who aren't injured, they do stare on, looking at the vehicle for any signs of movement. And there is where a door does get a smash open. Them watching someone begin to try and move out of it. And there is where Deku, he does go to bring his hands out, him dragging across the dirt before he does go climb to his feet, bring his hands up, and oh boy, that definitely hurt. Turning his head, seeing the military men before he does it, bring his hands up, talking about it. Well, if this isn't something. Them staring at him, backing away before he's going to talk about it. Right. So, here's what's going to happen. Someone bring up their weapon, and Carnage does go to fly out from Deku's back and smash in the person's head, before it does go to draw back in and go to float in the air, it beginning to form around Deku. And he does go to tell them, he wants their vehicle. He's going to take it, and when he does, finally covered in the entire symbiote, they're going to sit here and act all nice. He wants their money, their keys, and their uniform. I mean, his clothes are all dirty, and to be honest, they haven't been changed in quite a long time. Everyone looking around at each other, not sure what exactly to do. And Deku is long gone by the time the heroes do finally arrive. He drove that vehicle far away, and whenever he thought he might get caught, he dumped it, dumped the clothes, and kept the money. Found a new one, and just went coasting right along. It being the biggest story currently in the headlines. Carnage is loose. And people, they were terrified. Some were worried. Others didn't know how to react to the news. However, that was only the tip of the iceberg. Especially whenever Carnage, he showed off the very same night he was free. He decided to make his grand return to do one very simple thing. He walked into a Hero Association building, and he gave the response he wanted to the Hero Committee since they offered him a job. He ripped out 5 people's throats, and he made sure to spell out what he wanted. No, using their bodies. And people, they were horrified at the scene they found. It was not good. And this, it had many of them worried. Carnage is free. He's on the loose. There's no telling where he might be. But let's currently cut over to Izuku, who does sit in a diner, currently eating another plate of food as he does get to talk about it, looking up from his pancakes, asking the server if they could bring him some more bacon. It's been a long time since he's had some food this damn good. And they do go to stare at him quickly, looking at him confused for a second before their eyes do go a little wide. Deku going to lower his sunglasses and ask about it. Will they be a doll and bring him some more bacon and some more pancakes? Or are they going to try and call the police? The woman's hand gonna somewhat shake, and he is gonna talk about it. He'll tell her what? Bringing up his left hand, setting it on the table as it gets covered in the symbiote. If she does what he says, no one here has to die. He's just hungry. That's all. Does she understand? Her nodding her head. And Deku does it to raise a cup of coffee, talking about it. That's good. The symbiote disappearing. Well, now, might want to get busy with that order. I mean, it is a matter of life or death. It's just a turn. Quickly running back to the kitchen to tell the cook about what's going on. They need more bacon and more food. Since the guy outside, he might be a little more of a VIP at the moment. And this, it doesn't make sense. The man looking out and seeing Deku, who does go to give a toothy grin with Carnage. And the man does not flinch, him nearly burning himself in the grill before he does go to talk about what to do. And when the two do to conclude about what they have to do, yeah, Deku does get more food. However, he's well aware that he's got about 10, 20 minutes maybe, if they decide to call the police. Though, yeah, they know the police won't work. So if they did use their brains a little bit and they don't want to see that nice little family over there torn to shreds, they're going to do exactly what he says. Him laughing out a little bit. Going to sit back another cup of coffee and kick his feet up, waiting for his food. And with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one. This story definitely does seem a lot more fun.